Good morning and welcome back to Planner Craft. I'm Natalie and today we are going to be doing a little stamping with our ScanNCut. So this time it's going to be all about background stamps. So let's dive on in. I'm going to be using some Chocolate Baroque stamps for this one, and we're going to be focusing on that lovely leaf panel for today. So what I'm aiming to do is I'm going to stamp this a couple of different ways, one of which I'm going to try and actually cut apart so that we're using our direct cut, and some that we can use for our background. So first of all, morning Deb, and don't be afraid to say hello and let me know you're watching. So you'll notice that we are still live on Facebook. Well, we didn't get a chance yesterday to kind of have a look at the settings, but I thought it would be really easy to make it so that we stream to our website. No, it's not. It is not. So we will be seeing about doing that very, very soon. But in the meantime, we have to keep going to Facebook as well as YouTube. So I'm going to pop my card into my stamp platform, and I'm going to put my magnets in. Now I want to try and get as much of this stamp in as possible, so I'm going to send it right up to this middle edge, but I'm going to leave the top and bottom of my card clear so that I can pop those magnets in place, because we're going to do a few repetitions of our stamping. So good morning Linda. So let's move my mouse out of the way a bit and move this over so I can lower this down. So first of all, I'm just going to stamp my stamp onto my platform. Morning Mum. And we're going to do it one ink at a time. So I have Aged Mahogany, Villainous Potion, and Spice Marmalade. So this might seem like it's, really strong colours, but there's a reason I'm going strong. I'm going to start with Spice Marmalade because that's our lightest, and we're just going to dot the colour randomly. Now don't worry too much if you get it onto the background of your stamp, because I have to hand a cotton wool bud that we can just use just to clean up anywhere that's just splodged onto that background. Okay, and then we can stamp it. Get our little tool. Da, da, da. And there's our first image. So we can see that we've got some of that colour all over. Now if you want to, if you're using stronger colours, then you can just give your stamp a quick wipe, but because we're going light to dark, we should be okay. So now I'm going to go to Aged Mahogany. So this has a really lovely reddy tone, and again I'm just going to dot randomly, and if it goes over some of your areas that don't already have your marmalade on, that's fine too. It just means that when we do the pulling out of the colour, you're going to get a bit of a mix. Okay, so looking at this, I can see it's a bit light, so I could do a bit more of that ink going on there. So let's go, if it's missing here, it's going to be on this area of the stamp here, so you have to kind of think a bit back to front. Then we've got like a middle section down here that keeps missing, so let's just do a bit there randomly, and then just a little bit at the top. And give it another good all over rub. So with my stamping tool, what I'm doing is literally going all over that stamp so that there's no areas that I'm missing. Okay, now to fill in the blanks. So just here we have little bits, that's going to be this cluster just here. So we're going to be a bit more diligent about how we're applying our ink now. We've got this leaf set here, particularly towards the base of the leaf, so we can kind of aim for that then. And right into this corner and back across. Okay. And there's a little bit just on that leaf there. Then moving up a bit. And we're going to have this little section here has some missing, so I'm just going to go with that. So what you don't want to do is go all over your stamp. I'm literally picking out areas that I think are missing. And we can just add in a touch of colour. And furthest away, it's going to be right over here. So that big leaf there. And over here a bit. Tip of that top corner leaf just there. And if you do miss any bits, don't worry, we can just go again. So, let's put that there. Back over we go. Now, for this kind of technique, you want to have a stamp platform that you know is going to go back into the same place. Some of them can have a bit of a wobble on them, in which case they're not the stamp platform for this particular job. Okay. So now that I've got this far, I can see that there's still some bits that are missing, but it's already looking quite purple. So I'm just going to give it a very quick clean. Try not to move your stamp when you're doing this. And get the majority of the ink off, especially off the background. Because otherwise you're going to contaminate one of your other ink pads. Now, you can also see quite a bit of the spice marmalade as well. So let's kind of bridge the gap with the aged mahogany instead. So I'm literally going all over that area where I'm missing bits, because the purple's going to be strong enough that it's going to pop through that anyway. Okay, so let's give that a go, see whether we get a full image. It's very quiet in the chat today, so if you have any questions about what I'm doing, feel free to ask. Okay, so we have pretty much most of our colouring done. I'm going to leave my stamp attached for now, and I'm just going to take a water brush. So this could be just a normal paintbrush with water. But I'm just going to go for a water brush because that's what I have to hand, and I'm just going to try and drag in this colour. So the reason we leave that stamp attached is so that if we lose any sort of definition or too much of the shading lines, for instance, we can always go back and just add that back in. So I'm just going to go down the stems. Make sure that you do anything that is a little bit too pale, because you're relying on that to kind of make sure that your direct cut actually cuts out where it's supposed to. So even if you think, oh, I'm not sure it's going to do that, just go over the top and it will start to put in that ink. Now, if there are places that you think, oh, I could do that, but being a little stronger, just go back to your stamp and just pick up some of the ink that's still on it and just drop it in. So where it's stamped nice and strong like it is here, you're going to have lots of ink to play with. But where it's lighter, you might just want to add a little bit. Okay. Try and keep it within the lines, but it's not an essential. Just be aware that if you don't, you might just need to do a little bit of manual snipping after you've done your direct cut. And try not to move your card, just in case you do decide that you're going to do a secondary stamp over the top. So I'm just going to follow that line up, do our little berries. Now, if your ink colours are really far apart, then you'll benefit from doing like a little bit of a brush wash between colour areas, but for something like this where they kind of flow into one another, you don't have to worry. So with this particular background, our stems are going to finish with an open line, which means that potentially when we do our direct cut, it's going to cut out the outline rather than seeing the shape as a whole, which is why we want to do our watercolouring first before we do our direct cut. Okay. So this one's looking a bit pale, so I might just add a bit more of that ink in. So I'm just going to put some off my stamp and just drop it in. So when I was doing this, when I was making my samples, I planned all along that I was going to actually cut into this in the way that I'm going to do it today. But every time I did it, I liked the background too much to actually cut into it. So be warned, it is addictive and you'll find yourself doing lots and lots of versions. Okay, so this one where the spice marmalade and the learner's potion have overlapped, it's going to go kind of brown, but that's okay because it's autumn and there's lots and lots of shades that are going to be going into this. So I'm going to pull that down to the end of the stem line and stop. So another suggestion when you're doing this is you could actually use a clear glitter pen as well. Just going to put a bit more purple on that bottom bit and up here so that I get a bit of a shading going on. And let's follow the stem round. So down there. So what that water's doing is just pulling that outside line together, giving you a bit of shading without having to have lots of different paints. Lots of time, because we can just go over the top. So this is going to be a bit of a long one today, just because I want to do all the colouring live so that you can see how I did it. With this first one, we're going to keep these outlines as crisp as possible so that we stand a chance of the ScanNCut reading it and seeing it. So those of you that have been on the Facebook group will have noticed that I've put up a few of the Prime Early Access deals, if you're a Prime member. And they happen to have one of my favourite packs of HTV on offer. So if that's something you haven't tried yet, it's a really good kit to get you started, because it's got lots of different ones for you to play with, including some printed ones. So I'm just going to pull that colour in, and because I've still got a bit of that yellow on the brush, just go around that outside edge. So hopefully you can see that nice and clearly, and you can hear me hopefully. That'll be a good start after last week. And there we go. Now I'm using a chisel brush to try and be a little bit quicker on stream, but if you're kind of doing this at home, then a round brush is going to be just as good, if not slightly more accurate when you're doing your stems. And every time you do this, you're going to end up with slightly different colours. So, if you want to go down the route of mass producing, what I would recommend doing is taking a scan of your artwork, because you'll never replicate it the same way twice. So we're getting there. I do want to have as many of these as possible so that we have enough to do what we want to do. So get towards the outside edge, it's really pale, so let's get some more of that purple in and just take that up the leaf. Pull that stem down, and we've got this leaf here, it's going to go this way. Kind of goes off the edge, so we can just let it kind of fade out. It's one of those ones where your ScanNCut's going to kind of distinguish where that's going to go. Get a bit more of that ink, just to strengthen that. Now, as it starts to go a bit further along, you're going to start to see that actually it's going to start struggling just a little bit, because your inks are starting to dry. Don't worry, just keep with it. And just top up the ink when necessary. Now you could put some ink onto a palette and work from there. don't think, oh, I'm not getting enough. Just going to gently squeeze my brush so I just get a little bit more water, and then the ink's going to start spreading again, which is what we want. Now, the card choice that you have is going to impact a bit on how much of the outline you will lose. So something that has a bit of a coating to it, so like a pearlescent card, you are more likely to lose the definition in the centre of your leaf or in the shading like here. Okay, so follow that stem down there. So we can see now that we've got a bit more water going in our brush, it's going to be a bit darker and a bit easier for us. There we go. There we go. So we've got a stem there. So I hope you're enjoying watching this. It's very quiet. So I'm going to pull that out there. Just go over that little stem line a bit, just so it's a bit thicker. Same with this leaf here. I can see that there's a ghost of an outline that I can work to. So even if you think the outline hasn't stamped, still go up to it and just try and pick up a bit of darker colour that we can use to build that edge, like so. Okay. Down the stem again. So you may have seen that I put a post up about Facebook class format going away, and if you have paid for a class with us, those are going to be the first ones that we're going to try and retrieve. Now it is a case of try, because although it says it's really easy, yeah, it's not. I forget that some of us have done like multitudes of classes. Okay, so this is starting to not move as much, so I'm just going to give another light squeeze to my brush. Let's get a bit more water out. Try and pull in this colour a little bit more. Okay, so there's a little bit just there, going down to the stem here, that bit just there, and the stem here. So anything where you can see there's a white line or a gap, just draw over the top, just so it doesn't miss a bit. That's not what we want. So basically when we do this cutting, we want to try and get as much of it into one kind of shape as possible. Okay, so there's our first panel coloured. I'm going to rotate my card. Apply my magnets again. So it's important that we are applying our magnets so that we are keeping this as firmly seated to our platform as possible. And let's give this a bit of a scrub. So this time I'm just going to stamp it with just a normal ink pad. Oh, don't package to the camera one. It doesn't like it. Okay, so just make sure your card doesn't move too much. Okay. And again, this might need a couple of impressions, but I think that's looking pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my file on my ScanNCut. So I'm going to put my stamp away because that's done for now. Just make sure your magnets aren't in the way. And we can wash that later. So let's get the ScanNCut turned on. And we can hop on over. So we have a couple of processes that I want to use this design for. But basically I want a square that's going to cut around the outside of my panel and a circle that's going to go around the inside, and we're going to use it in two different ways. So we just want one copy onto our mat so that we can then do what we need to. So I'm going to go into pattern, basic shape, square. Now this is where you need a ruler. And I'm going to measure my panel. Now this is going to be very roughly because I kind of want to cut inside just a little. So I'm just going to put that up to that edge there, and we're looking at about 13.5 centimetres. So that's 135 millimetre. So a little bit bigger. Okay. Now I'm going to check to see whether this is square because it might not be. Never assume. Okay, so that should be good enough. So I'm going to add that to my mat. Now I want to pop in a circle. Let's just see if we can get that view just a little bit better. So, okay, move the arm so it's a bit of a... Let's try that. So I'm going to add a circle. And I'm not too bothered about the size of it at this point because I just want to get a circle onto my mat. Okay, and that's automatically going to bring it in by the side. Now what I want to do is have it so that it's going to be going in the middle. First of all, set your size and anything else that you want to do to it in terms of the object edit menu. So I'm going to shrink that down so that it gives me a nice little circle in the middle. So that should be just about big enough for a sentiment. Okay, I'm going to go to multi-select, select everything because we've just got those two shapes on the mat. We're going to go into move, up to a line, and we're going to go centre and centre so that we know that those two are together. Now because we're working direct onto our machine with our shapes, that means that they are cut and draw lines, so just bear that in mind. If you want to kind of do a bit of distinguishing, you either need to use Canvas Workspace Desktop or Canvas Workspace Online and have the option to have either a cut or draw, or cut and draw when you're online, or cut or draw only on desktop. Okay, so we've got our two shapes there, and they're all aligned. Now what I would say is if we go to edit, and while it's all selected, go to object edit and group. That means that even if we accidentally touch something, it's not going to change the relationship between the two shapes. And I'm going to need where did I put it? I'm going to need a pen. So, yes, use one of the pink ones because we can. So, I'm just going to pop overhead for a moment. So, snap that in, and then any pencil, as long as it's got a nice, reasonably sharp point. Now, technical pencils do work better, or best I should say, but for what we're using this for, drawing is absolutely fine. So, just want to make sure that is nice and tight. Check the guide again if you think it's shifted. If it has, just loosen it back off. Place the guide again, give it a little push and retighten. Okay, so with that now done, move your guide, pop it in your holder. And this first time that we're going to do it, we're going to work onto our stamped card. And just going to use an artistic mat. Now, because we're drawing rather than cutting, any mat will do. So if you have a low tack one, you can use that. Because you don't have the same amount of pressure. Okay, I'm going to load that mat into my machine. At least if I can reach. So, remember how I was saying that everything's moved, everything's moved. There we go. So, let's go back to the ScanNCut. So, with that now on our mat, we're going to go OK, OK, and do our background scan. Make sure the back of your machine is clear and that your back shelf is also out. Because that's there to help support your card when it's going through. And we're going to take our shape, we're going to move it over that back panel like that. Okay, and we're going to go OK, and we're going to go draw. Now the reason I'm doing this in pencil rather than a pen is that we're going to want to erase those lines. So at this point you could also be using any erasable pen, so things like a Pilot Friction will work. There's some nice new ones that I happen to have one of that I will show you in a minute when I find it. But in terms of draw settings for pencils, the speed really doesn't matter. You can go as quick as you like. Draw pressure is obviously, you don't want to make it too heavy unless you really want you know, a strong line, but 0 is okay. And there to go. Now, because my holders are older, it's going to say attach appropriate holder, and just go OK and start. And lift up your scanner lever to position 1 rather than having it down in 2. It's because it assumes that you're writing with a pen that is likely to smudge rather than thinking it's a pencil. Wouldn't it be cool if you could actually tell it what you're actually drawing with? Okay, so check that you're happy with your pencil outline, and if you are, we're going to say OK, and let's go back. I'm going to remove that piece of card for now, and I'm just going to pop on a plain piece of card, and I'm going to draw the same. Oh, who's that commenting as Planner Craft? I'm going to draw the same pattern onto a plain piece of card. Now, you'll notice if I try and show you overhead that your line is kind of a bit thick and whatever. That's fine, don't worry about it. You just basically want it so that your machine can see that line, and then we can erase it afterwards. So, going back to the ScanNCut. So I've got this lined up into the top left corner, same as we did with our previous scan. So you don't have to redo a scan, but we can go drag that shape over if we want. Because after this, we're not going to use it again. So we're going to go OK. We can set it back to draw, and off it goes. That's okay, Linda. Okay, so this is going to form the basics of our one design, so that we've got a guide to work to. So we're kind of using the same shape in two different ways. With this one, it's going to be our guide for our positioning our elements when we cut them out. With this one, it's actually going to be what's going to make our little aperture in the middle here. Okay, so with those done, I'm going to go back to our watercolour end, and I'll pop that up so that it is 1 inch down from the top, so it can see as much of that leaf as possible. If we put it up to the top edge, sometimes the active area can actually kind of crop in, and then it won't recognise like the top set. Good morning, Michelle. Yeah, did you see the pencil holder in action? Just to prove that, yes, we still do it. Okay, so with our watercolour on our mat, we're going to go OK, home to reset, and we're going to go to scan. Now bear in mind we lifted the scan glass to do our drawing, so now we're going to want to lower it back down. We're going to go to direct cut. We're going to get the machine to do the work, and I'm going to swap it to colour because we've got those really light soft sections. Okay, and then we're going to do our scan. Now your card is going to hang off the bottom of your mat because we moved it down that 1 inch, but that's absolutely fine. So if ever you need to do like a verse inside a super big card, just let it just dangle off the bottom of the mat, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to frame my image, so just take that bottom arrow and move it up, and the top arrow and move it down, and across. We're going to get OK, because that's the only bit that we're interested in this pass. Okay, so it's pulled out pretty much everything, so at this point it's a good place to go. Actually, that's looking pretty spot on. So I'm going to go OK, and then we can do an offset, and that can sometimes show us where things might be going a little bit odd. So So I'm just going to pop it up just one. That's all looking fine. I'm going to go OK. I'm just going to try and slightly go through and just see if there's any weird little bits. So like here where we've got like some little tiny bits, it could be that it's picking up a piece of dust off the mat, or it could be that it's reading a shape incorrectly. So I'm just going to go OK and back and ignore object size. And we can put those up a little bit. And it just means if there's anything he's not quite picking up right, he's going to just kind of ignore it. Go back and apply your offset again. Okay, not looking too bad. So we'll go OK. And this time, because we're using lots of detail, you could use your standard cut blade if you want, or if you want to use your vinyl cut blade. Okay. Now you can see my half cut's turned on because I've been doing some vinyl, so just make sure to turn that off. Otherwise you won't get a decent cut. I'm just going to put my pressure up just a touch. I'm going to go OK. And let that go. So while that's doing that, I'm going to take my pencil back out of the holder. And a little bit in this packet. So while that's doing that, yeah, it is very easy to use. And let's see if we can get you a little bit of a better view of what it's cutting. There we go. So I'm going to be doing a bit of die cutting with the ScanNCut as well later in the week. So it's good to see how that we can use those two together. Because a lot of people will say, oh, now that I've got my ScanNCut Cricut silhouette, is it your brand here? Do I still need my Gemini Spellbinder Platinum Sizzix? And it's like, yes, they both work together quite happily. And you know, you can actually make your die stretch further by combining them with elements from your ScanNCut. So while that's doing that, and to just save a bit of time rather than doing it with the ScanNCut later, I'm just going to cut out our little guide shape that we did earlier. Just aware that, you know, time and all that. So I'm just cutting just slightly inside my pencil line. And then that centre circle is going to give me a guide to actually create a circular panel. So this is a good technique to use with anything where you're not using the same stamp again and again and again. If you're using the same stamp, then you just swap over to the foil shield and do it the nice easy way. Dee, dee, dee. Okay, so I'm just going to go back in. 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 I'm just for the stamped design that we've done our circle drawn over the top, you might find that you just need to do a little extra work just to get that to work as it should. But it's still easier than doing it all manually. What that vinyl you showed this morning, is that the adhesive vinyl or the heat transfer vinyl? The adhesive vinyl looked really funky, I haven't had that one, but the heat transfer one is the one that we use on our t-shirts. It's really cool to use. I'm looking forward to playing with the printed ones out of the pack too. Oh, you missed out on the pens, that's a shame. I'm going to be showing some other pens as well in a blog post that I spotted that Jean was using on her show on Create and Craft. So I found those, and yeah, I've been having a bit of fun playing with them. I can't show you too much though, because it's going to be featuring in the samples for the next show for Chocolate Baroque. So we're nearly there. 2 minutes to go. Let me know which and when. Okay, so blog post will probably be going up end of the week. I'll give myself that much of a leeway. But I can flash them very quickly if I need. So here we go. And Chromatech. And nice. So you actually get 3 water brushes, and it's one of the water brushes that I was using. So I was using the chisel, and just give my hand a quick clean before that stains it too much. Just flood it with water. There we go. When you get yours, they'll be all nice and light. Okay, so you get 3 different size nibs in the water brushes, and then all the lovely colours. But hidden at the back, you get like a tutorial pad, and then there's virtual lessons to go with it too, which is really funky. So if you haven't used a real brush watercolour pen before, it's kind of a good place to start. And there you go. So you have a nice pointy tip, but it is actually bristles rather than a felt nib. So you know me, I have to try the new pens. Okay, so now that that's cut, I just want to check that's cut all the way through. And you may find it's cut into some of the leaves and whatnot, but that's fine. We can work with it. So I'm just going to lift that card off for now. And let's get my metal spatula, which I thought was hiding under here. But okay, I'll do it the long way. So I have tweezers. And go back across the ScanNCut. So now we can see all these, I'm just going to pick these off. So like you may find that you've got one like that where it's cut into it a bit, where it's just too pale. Don't worry about that. We can use that to kind of fluff things out a little bit and just hide that it's done that. So there we go, another little leaf. Anything that's too far gone, it's okay for you to just go, okay, that didn't work, and just get rid. Don't try and make it work if it won't. So you can kind of just see it overhead. And there's our first one. And I want to try and build a circle. So for this next one, we have this piece here. Now, if we were to leave that all attached, you can see that we're going to kind of struggle with it, this bit going up off the top. So if I pop that overhead so you can see that a bit better, like so. So I am going to do a little bit of creative snipping. So we've got a leaf here that's in front that attaches to this bit, so that's going to be where I'm going to cut. And because we're working onto a white background, we don't have to worry too much about the offset. If you're working onto a coloured background, however, and this could be a point where you go, actually I'm going to trim the offset away. But I'm just going to go up to that edge and then just try and fade it back into that offset as well, so it doesn't just start and stop. And I'm going to do the same this side here. So just snip that bit away. So that's going to go. Let's go around. And I'll kind of look at the leaves to see where that bit's going to fit. So the biggest bits are the easiest to do first. Okay, so that's going to go about there. And let's get the next bit off. Okay. So this bit's where we're coming up to the edge of our stamp, so we've got kind of a flat spot. So we can actually then go, okay, that bit needs to come off there, that little branch, just because otherwise that's going to be sticking into the centre of our circle, which we don't want. That works quite well just there, but obviously again this leaf we're missing a little bit off, so I'm just going to snip that off there too. So far so good. So at this point we can put in our other section that we've just taken out. I'm just going to kind of decide which bit's going to go where and how those branches are going to kind of overlap. So once you're kind of 90% of the way there, what you want to do is to start sticking these down, because then it makes it a bit easier to get all your little bits kind of tucked underneath. Now, you don't have to go 3D if you don't want to go 3D, but I'm just going to use some little pop dots just to pop it up. Now, you could use wet glue on the inside as well, and that's probably what I'll do, so you get a bit more of a shape going through your piece. So these are cool because they're like little round dots, so they're nice and easy to fit in organic shapes rather than using squares. Otherwise you end up going half square, quarter of a square. Let's stick this one first. If you need a link to the pop dots, let me know and I'll pop those up in the group after. Oh, while I have you all here, can I ask a question? How many of you liked it when we had the Discord and we were putting files up on there so that we could do things like the SVGs? Okay, so for this next one, I'm going to do this one next. Now, I can see that we've kind of lost a bit of this leaf here, so if I put my hand under it. So what I'm going to do is actually snip him so that we don't lose too much of that branch. Excuse me. So I'm just going to go right in. Around our leaf here and take out that stem bit in there, like so. And then we can stick that next bit. Haven't seen those before. Where did you get them from? So we get them from Amazon, and they come in a nice little zip wallet, and you get so many sheets of the square ones and so many sheets of the round ones. But what I would also say is, if you are doing something that's a bit bigger, you can actually use the waist too, and it will actually support it across, rather than having to use like reams and reams of foam tape or having to get your craft foam out. Okay, so nearly there. And then hopefully I can show you the other card as well. So these would be for two separate card designs. It's good to see how you can actually use your background stamps a bit different, rather than just stamping them and plonking something on top. Technical term, that. So this bit I'm going to put up towards that bit. Try and follow that curve round, like so. So with all these bits in here, if you just want to pop like some of the glue dot sheets underneath, and then you can actually stick that down to your card so that you get like a undulation. So it actually looks like actual little twigs that are stuck to your card. So, last couple of dots. Okay, so you can actually get some flat glue dots as well. So if you don't want to pop them up like this, you can use flat glue dots. I'm going to tuck this little bit here underneath this leaf and try and join that up like so. So we're keeping that circle going. Now in bits like this where you've had to go well around the circle, we can use that to be kind of a clue to put something else in there, just to make it a bit of an optical trick of the eye. So we can go and pop that one in there. Now we can use glue dot again if you want, or if you want to just use a little bit of double-sided tape, you can do that too. So I'm just going to grab a thin bit of double-sided, flip that over, apply that onto my leaf and peel that off, and then we can pop that in there, and I'm just going to follow that circle around. So you can see that then if you do that glue dot thing, we will press that down onto there, and you could even just snip that little bit and offset off, and it's going to look like the two actually joined together. So let's find another leaf section that we can use. again, it's got a little bit that I'm just going to snip off, like so. And we could use that to kind of hide these two bits here. Now, just because that kind of goes off and it just kind of fades into it, I'm just going to snip that down there. I'm going to tuck my stem underneath, and then I think what I might end up doing, just because we've got these two bits here that I kind of want to cover, is actually put a little bit of a hot dot on top. So now it's just a trick of getting that stem in the right way to get everything where it needs to go. Because I want that to kind of rotate in there. Maybe that way, maybe that way. Ah, there we go. So if I do it like that, I can get that there. So take it round a bit further. I'm just going to pop dot that one, just because it's big and I want it to kind of cover. So there. And let's tuck that in there, and then that's kind of completing that bit of the circle. And I quite like that. So you can see that we're starting to get a little bit of a thicker design. So if you wanted to just do it just so that you had those initial branches, you could do that and keep it nice and thin. But what I'm thinking is that we could then do a sentiment stamp. Okay, so up this end is looking a bit thin on the ground. Let's just pop that in there. Okay. So just going to see if there's a bit here that would kind of cover this edge. Kind of pop in there, but I think it's just not going to look like it's around the right way then. And you know, there are points where you think, just don't fiddle with it, it works. So you just want to take the rest of the bits off your mat, and you could always set those aside for using on something else so that you could actually create another panel. So it could be that you either draw yourself a square and fill a square with it. So let's get these bits off. And then I can concentrate on the other little section. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a square or a circle that we could have done that with. It could have been that we did a Christmas tree. If you really want to get intricate. Yeah, it could be that you had like a fancy frame, like the old style spellbinders dies, that you wanted to fill with the leaves and then cut the next layer up and have it plain with your sentiment on. One of those ones where you want to get all the little bits off. Otherwise, when you come to do your next bit of cutting, it can make it jump, which we don't want. It's fun to do with your tweezers. It's like having a giant game of operation. So, if you haven't seen the tweezers before, I've shown them on the t-shirt workshop. But they're like quite sharp little things, so do put your little safety cap back on, and when you put them in the storage tube, sharp end goes down the bottom. Okay, so with that done, let's go back to my other background. So what I want to do is I want to kind of join my gap. Now this may or may not work depending on the mood that your ScanNCut is in, so please bear this in mind. I'm going to draw that like that, and it's basically I'm joining a dot to dot. So if you think you can't draw a perfect circle, that's okay. You get the ScanNCut to draw the perfect circle. You're tracing the perfect circle. I'm using an artist sketching pen, but it could be that you use a nice brown biro. You know, something like an Inkjoy liquid would work well. You want something that's going to be nice and easy to draw with. Make sure that you don't go over your stamped edge at all. Now, if my ScanNCut is feeling very good today, it will see the circle. If it's not feeling very good today, it won't. But you want it so that it looks as perfect a circle as possible. So you're going to have some bits that are going to go into it, all the way into it. And you're going to have some bits that kind of come up to that line, and it'll be so close that it's just a case of just carry on drawing past. Okay? So I'm going to pop that on the mat. Again, you're going to go that 1 inch down. Just because we still want to see that outside square as well. And let's get me pencil eraser. I'm going to go OK. Going to reset, and we're going to go back to scan. Back to direct cut. Come on, focus camera. Come on. There we go. Use the machine again. Now I'm going to try it in black and white because it should be strong enough that it should see, and I want it to totally ignore that pencil line. Now this may or may not work. If it doesn't work, there's always ScanNCut data and we can try from there. So I'm going to go OK. Now, it's going to do the opposite of what we want at the moment because it's seeing that outside line. And it's going to go and cut round all this intricate frame around the outside. Now, that might be the look you're going for. On this occasion it's not. I want it to cut around the inside of the circle. But if that's what you want to do, you would just move that up so that it's still got enough space around the outside edge, and you could let it go from there and say that's fine. Okay? Now, if we bring it in a bit closer, is it going to be able to swap around what it sees? Is the question. So I'm going to bring right in and down a little bit. Now, no is the answer. But that's okay. As I said, you know, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. It all depends on how it's picking up your stamping. So, shall we try it the other way around? Shall we? Just for something different, because if you go on the video that I put of the Chocolate Baroque samples, you'll see where I've done this and I've gone from the inside, and you can see the aperture. But let's try something different, shall we? So let's move our arrows back out. I'm still going to try and keep those arrows on my card. The reason being, if there's any fluff on your mat, it's going to try and pick it up. Okay. So, this could be interesting. Let's see what it's going to come up with. I'm going to go to preview and OK. Now if we go to offset, it helps us see what actually is going on a bit better. Okay, that's interesting. So it's kind of seeing one half differently to what it's seeing the other half. Okay, you know what this would look really cool to do? And that's foiling. But it's going to take too long. So, let me show you a bit different way. Let's pop it back at overhead. And let's make it so that it's a bit more obvious to your machine what it is you want it to do. So, hopefully you can see that. Okay, focus. And I'm going to shade that area. Now, maybe it's not going to cope where these little fine stem bits are. If I lose some of them, it's okay. But I'm going to take that round in there. And you may think, oh, that's going to take you ages. But sometimes it's just worth it. So I'm just going to kind of make it dark around this outside edge here. So I'm going, that bit there is what I want to cut round. But there's so many ways that we can work with our background stamp. So as I mentioned, you could use it to foil, and then use that basic shape to kind of limit where that foiling goes. So that's a really good way of starting to save on our materials. At the end of the day, we are going to start being more conscious about how much foil we're using. Well, most of it anyway. I'm somewhat drowning on a bit, so yeah, craft stuff is definitely drowning, not waving. And those of you that requested a visit from the Naughty Boot, I'm going to try and do that this weekend. So we'll see how it goes. It might be that it just cuts that entire centre bit out and pulls out the leaves, but just try and go around those edges so it's nice and as strong as possible so it can see where it's going. It doesn't matter so much about the middle. So just there, I want it to kind of go down there, in there, up there, down there. So, what other techniques would you like me to show? Is there something that I haven't covered yet that you would like me to do? There's going to be a few other background stamp sessions coming up, because there's a nice Christmas one that I want to kind of show you a few tricks, a few different approaches. Okay, so then what I'm going to do in a minute is, once I've done all this shading, and don't use your best pencils for this bit, by the way, it'd be such a waste. It's just trying to help it see a bit clearer. And it may not work, it may just be that, you know, I'm just not going to get what I want. But we'll see. So it's going to struggle a little bit with these stem bits, I reckon, because it's not going to have that white around it. But it wasn't saying it anyway, that's my fault, so. And you can do this so much neater than I'm doing it. So, what I'm thinking is, which day did I put it on? Thursday. I'm going to show you a few of the new materials that I'm going to be playing with, including some faux leather paper, which is going to be interesting. So I want to do a little bit of a mini journal so that we can use that on a cover. Now the interesting bit with this faux leather paper is that it actually requires you to wash it. So it's going to be one of those where I'm going to cut the pieces on string review, but then actually have to go and get the sewing machine out. So this could be interesting. For starters, I'll have to kick in off the desk for a bit, so that's not going to go down well. Who would like to see Ian do a bit with the laser cutter? Because I know that we were looking at doing a session taking the round sign files from design bundles and actually scaling them so that you can have the large sign, but also how we can do some little baubles. So that's kind of an ideal thing to get him to kind of step in on, because he can actually create the bases using the laser cutter. Okay, so we're nearly there. So with that done, now as I said, with this bit down here, I think he's going to struggle. So it could be that we lose this branch, but that's no biggie really. Now, I'm just going to get my eraser pencil and I'm just going to take out the bits from our original circle where they go through, just so it doesn't accidentally pick those up. So sometimes it takes like 2 or 3 little goes over, but proof that I do use an eraser pencil rather than a stylus. Okay. And just make sure we get that edge in there too. So when it comes to erasing, every little bit is going to help. So if you can do like the little stems a little bit, you might just get a stem that you otherwise wouldn't have. There we go. A little bit just there. Right, let's try it out. Go 1 inch down. Now if I go back to my ScanNCut, at this point we are going to want to reset the scan. So go home to reset and scan, direct cut, machine, start. Okay, and we're going to shrink that in, so it's not seeing that outside edge. Come on. let's try and use our contrast. It's getting there, kind of. Can you see the outside line? Pretty good. Oh, we've got bits of it, so it obviously isn't far off. So what I would say is, if you get to something like that, where it's kind of between 2 points in your contrast, then you've got a couple of options. Number one is to try rescanning it again with the light on, in my case, because I've got the lights off and it's got a window behind it, and that can help balance the light. Another one is to just try and move it around your mat as well, because sometimes you'll find it will pick up slightly differently in a different area. So just one last attempt. Let's try and do it in colour. So dark cut, machine, let's try colour, and okay, start. Now, with this being coloured, it could be potentially a bit difficult to read, but we'll see how it goes. Let's take that right up in there. So the reason we're taking it in is, number one, we're getting it to ignore that outer square that we've drawn. So that's why we bring it in from that edge. And I just want it to focus on this circle. But if we take it too close, then it's not going to be able to see the edges of that circle. Come on, you can do it, you can do it, you know you can. Oh dear. Okay, it can kind of see it, but it's not seeing it the right way around. So, where else could you go from here? If you definitely set on doing this, what I would do, go back, okay, and we can go that one, okay. We're going to just literally send it as I scan. And then what you can do is you can take it through into Canvas Workspace, and if you have the enhanced image tracing, this is one of those occasions where it would be really useful, because then we can actually draw where we want it to go. So then we can cut out our aperture. So what I will do is, rather than take any more time, because this is like way longer than what I planned for today, is I'll do that off stream, and then I will try and pop those up later. I've got a little bit of recording to do this afternoon, which is why I'm like, can't spend too much longer doing this. So once I've done that, I will try and hop on and finish that off. So that scan will stay there until you replace it with something else, basically. So I know I'm not going to be replacing it with anything else today, so it's fine to just sit there until you're ready. And I will pop up both finished cards so you can see what they look like later. In between making lollipops. But if you haven't heard about the lollipops, you can ask me about the lollipops. They're fun. Okay, so I hope you've had fun and you've enjoyed that. And if there's anything else that you would like me to cover at any point, between now and Christmas, it is going to be pretty much Christmas. But if there's something that you've seen that you need help with, do reach out. I can usually put a Christmas spin on most things. So take care, and I will see you Thursday. So have fun and bye. Thank you, Linda. I'll hover on here a moment just in case anybody wants to just say about anything that they're fancying. But yeah, there's about a 30-second delay, so I'm just going to tuck that in there. Just hold that bit down because I'm fiddling. Even though, you know, I've got other bits I need to do because I'm naughty. So I think that one's going to struggle to fit in somewhere. But I'm quite liking that, so I think that is going to be done. I'm just going to take that leaf there just because I want one more, and I'll call that quits on that one too. Okay, so no more questions. Take care, see you Thursday, and let me know on the group what you think to Discord, if you want to keep it, if you want to use it more, so on and so forth. Bye for now.